and defense attorney, I've never been more angry about a charge because today the rule of law in the United States of America died.
This is a terrible thing to do for our country. I don't know whether it helps or hurts. I can tell you, in my opinion, it's a new way of cheating on elections. It's called election interference.
And so I thought it'd be really cool to get 60 seconds with President Trump of me looking at him and being like, do you solemnly swear? And me getting to swear him in. I kind of just thought that would be an awesome moment.
Freedom is back in style. Welcome to the revolution.
Yeah, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song.
Sean Hannity. The new Sean Hannity Show. More behind-the-scenes information on breaking news and more bold, inspired solutions for America.
Our next guest, the attorney in this case against Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan District Attorney. We have Joe Tacopina back with us, President Trump's attorney. Sir, how are you?
Sean, I'm good. A little tired, but I'm good. Just beginning the fight. And, it's been a long 24 hours. Let's put it that way.
Look, I've known you a long time. You are an incredible lawyer. You're a great litigator. You've done over 100 jury trials, if I'm not mistaken, in New York. You've won them, even cases that people thought were impossible. First, let me get to the details of where you are with the DA's office. There were reports in the Politico and elsewhere that Alvin Bragg wanted to arrest Donald Trump today, but you guys said absolutely not, and you have to work things out with the Secret Service. As this is, unprecedented territory. This has never happened before.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think they were initially looking for surrender today. I mean, he's 5:30. We found out about this last night. He lives in Florida. The Secret Service is involved. So, that just wasn't happening. We're working it out right now. Susan Nicholas is speaking with them, and I think we're talking about possibility of doing this on Tuesday afternoon, Sean.
What we're hearing is Tuesday at about 2:15. Just to make sure, will you get into the nitty-gritty, the details of exactly what will happen that day? For example, there's going to be an arraignment. There's going to be a mugshot. There's going to be fingerprinting. Are they going to put handcuffs on the former president? Is there going to be a perp walk of the former president?
No, my understanding is there'll be no handcuffs at all here. I mean, this is already going to be something that none of us have ever seen in our lifetimes, and I don't think that's where we're going here. As far as a perp walk, he's not a perp, and so we shouldn't have a perp walk. But will they seek to put on some dog and pony show and display? Of course they will. I mean, that's part of the reason we're here. It's par for the course. Everything that's been done in this case so far is based on weaponization of the justice system, seeking to derail a political opponent, seeking to influence the election. So, whatever they do, nothing would surprise me at this point, John. Nothing at all.
Have we figured out what the 34 number means yet?
We haven't. I mean, again, it's frustrating that we learn about this case sometimes, or the status of it, or the number of counts.
From the New York Times.
From the Times. The Times has basically given us the information. So, they have not told us yet. They won't tell us until the indictment is unsealed. But I don't think it's going to be anything too shocking or surprising, but we have to wait and see. I mean, I think it's all going to be based around the interaction with this, confidentiality agreement with Stormy Daniels.
And maybe Kara McDougal, or you don't know?
I don't know, Sean. I mean, again, it would be just...
All right, because there are really interesting pieces of evidence as it goes into this case, and we've gone over them in detail. We had the Michael Cohen's lawyer's letter from 2018, which is completely exculpatory. In a private transaction, 2016, before the U.S. presidential election, Mr. Cohen used his own personal funds to facilitate a payment of $130,000 to Ms. Stephanie Clifford. Either the Trump organization or the Trump campaign was a party to the transaction of Ms. Clifford. And we have Michael Cohen saying pretty much exactly the same thing. And then just to add more evidence, we have Stormy Daniels' signature on a January 30th, 2018 piece of paper signing her own words that, quote, I am not denying this affair because I was paid hush money. I'm denying this affair because it never happened. So where's the crime here?
Well, just think about what you just said, Sean. You just framed the issues. Their entire case is built upon people who are going to say, I've been a liar. I've been a liar throughout this entire episode. I've been a liar before. I was a liar, but ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you should believe me now. I mean, Michael Cohen has a pathological need for media attention and is a pathological liar. He's been convicted of a slew of federal criminal charges, not just having to do with this, but lying to Congress, lying to the bank regarding his tax medallion scheme that he had there, tax evasion, lying to the IRS. It just goes on and on and on. And it's recently, Sean, as yesterday or the day before, he's literally on CNN, because now he's a star. And he goes on CNN and says that, when he pled guilty to all these things, he really was just forced to plead guilty to protect his wife or his family. And in fact, he wasn't really guilty of the thing. So that's him disavowing responsibility. Someone who's supposed to turn a corner and now be a truth teller is now saying, well, when I pled guilty, I perjured myself because I wasn't really guilty. That's who they are building their case on. He is constitutionally incapable of telling the same story twice. And that's going to really be a problem for him if he ever has to get up on a witness stand in this case. It's shocking. And more importantly, Sean, let's assume for a minute lightning struck and everything Michael Cohen said was true and everything Stormy Daniels said was true. Do you understand this? There's still no crime because there's no federal election law campaign violation at all. At all.
Let me ask you about grounds to dismiss that you would likely bring up. I'm not asking for your specific legal strategy here, but I would imagine there's going to be a number of motions to dismiss. I would imagine there's going to be a motion to have a change of venue. I would imagine that you will argue that the statute of limitations has long since passed. I would imagine you will argue that it is based on this novel, faulty legal theory that has never been used before, and that a mere misrepresentation on a government document is by itself criminal, that recording a payment of hush money is a legal expense. Apparently that didn't even happen, according to my sources, but and that it becomes a felony only because the purpose may have been to violate federal, not state, campaign statutes. And remember, on the federal level, they passed on this case. I would imagine you'd argue that the charges, you would seek a dismissal based upon the argument of prosecutorial misconduct, and especially selective prosecution.
You got it.
Tell me where you're going with this.
You seem to have got to law school. I mean, you just hit basically what we think will be most of our initial motions. Look, it's to be a prudent lawyer. It's hard to say what we're going to be filing until we see the indictment. We have to see the indictment, but I can't imagine everything you just listed not being part of the arsenal of legal attacks we're going to be making on this politically motivated case. There's nothing more. I mean, this stuff scares me, to be quite honest with you. The rule of law is now endangered, and quite frankly, it died. And all Americans, I don't care how politically inclined to the left or the right you are, all Americans should be concerned, because today it's Donald Trump. Tomorrow it's a Democrat. The day after tomorrow, it's your brother, it's your sister, it's your niece or your nephew. And it's starting to get scary when we could decide that we have someone we don't like, as Mark Pomerantz said in his book, we don't like, we're going to find something. And they scoured for 3 years. They scoured all of his personal and professional records to find something. And this is what they came up with, something that does not even equal a crime, according to federal election officials and experts. I don't know what they think they're going to do here, but what he's hoping for is, look, he indicted President Trump. So congratulations. You're the first to indict a former president. He appeased his financial backers. Alvin Bragg, great, terrific, congratulations. Now he's going to hope that he gets some judge who's intellectually dishonest, a jury who is so blue that they can't see anything that Donald Trump is doing, and they don't want to, regardless of the law and the facts, they'll still vote to convict. And then, ultimately an appellate court would say, you know what, it's Donald Trump, forget it, forget the law, forget the facts, forget the rule of law. That's what this is all. This is how this has to be playing out in their minds. And it is a grave error.
Well, let me ask you this, because you've tried cases in New York City courtrooms.
Yes, sir.
My question is, and Donald Trump said this himself, he warned that he can't get a fair trial in New York after an indictment on these charges. Alvin Bragg ran to go after one man, Donald Trump, one organization, the Trump Organization, and one family, the Trump family. I would say, off at the top of my head, Democrats, liberals outnumbering conservatives, Republicans 9-1, that the odds are not in your favor that you're going to get a fair trial in New York City. Can you get a change of venue? Will that happen?
Look, obviously, we'll consider that. We have to consider a change of venue, but a change of venue has to be based on sort of legal principles that are found, facts that are found, and things that not just because,
Would it matter that Alvin Bragg ran as a candidate campaigning on the issue that he's going to go after Donald Trump? I would say that would be an inherent bias on his part.
And that has to do with the selective prosecution, prosecutorial misconduct. Look, here's the thing. I understand why people would be concerned, really be concerned about New York jurors being fair to Donald Trump. You know, I've tried, as you said, over 100 jury trials, and I happen to have confidence in New York juries to do the right thing. And I believe that people, all decent people, whether politically opposed to Donald Trump or supportive of Donald Trump, will be outraged by weaponization of a prosecutor's office. This is not a crime. The facts and the laws don't add up to a crime. And I think people are going to start saying, Jesus, you know, I don't like this guy. I'm not going to vote for him as president, but I'm not also going to let this country become what we used to look back on from the former Soviet Union, communist China, even Nazi Germany, to the point where, you know, we're just going to target people we don't like, and to hell with the rule of law, and to hell with the facts. I just want to go after this guy. I think New York jurors are savvy and gritty, and I still have hope. Look, we have to challenge everything that we can because we don't want to be in a situation where he can't get a fair trial. But I also believe that this is so outrageous and so obvious that a New York jury is going to, if we're before a New York jury, no matter where in New York, that they'll be able to see through this and call it what it is.
I hope you're right. I would actually even hope even more that you might get a change in venue, maybe upstate New York, maybe Long Island, anywhere I think would be more fair than New York City in all of this. You've talked to the president. You've talked to his family. I've talked to some of the family members. How's the president handling this?
He's tough. I mean, he's a tough guy. You know, first there was a bit of shock and really disbelief. Despite all the rumors and scuttlebutt and New York Times reporting, there just was still the hope that somehow justice and rule of law would prevail, that there's no way you could make this a crime when it's not a crime. Everyone has said it. Everyone from the left and the right who understands this said it's not a crime. So he's holding up as well as to be expected, but I got to tell you, he's a tough guy. And he's someone who now is in fighting mode. And so now we're rounding up the troops, and we're going to be constantly having meetings about how we attack this. As soon as we get that indictment, or as soon as the New York Times lets us know what's in the indictment, we'll be ready to plan our course of attack. But he's holding up, Sean. And look, it's not a coincidence that his poll numbers seemed to have risen during this targeted prosecution, right? I mean, it seems like what this has done for a lot of his supporters has basically confirmed his position that he's being targeted. It's the weaponization of the system is being employed against a political opponent, and that is not what we want in this country. I mean, here's the question: does anyone actually believe, Sean, that if someone else were accused of paying hush money to avoid a sex scandal in the press in the manner that Donald Trump is suspected of doing, they would be prosecuted? Never happened before in this country's history.
I don't know if it's ever going to happen again. I don't know if you saw James Comey's tweet. Oh, it's been a good day. Now, this is a guy that could not verify because the FBI in early of 2016 has sent his agents over to meet Christopher Steele with a $1 million offer. If he could corroborate the dossier, he could not. As Andrew McCabe said, without the dossier, they never would have got the FISA warrant approved. But James Comey signed that FISA warrant. At the top of the FISA warrant, it says verified. He signed 3 of the 4 warrants. And he's telling us that's a good day. If Donald Trump lied to a judge like that, would he be prosecuted?
The whole premise of this case is that this was a campaign donation, and therefore it was required that he make a filing with the FEC. That is not the case. The FEC has already said that. But let's now assume that Donald Trump subscribed, or his advisors subscribed to the ridiculous notion that this was somehow exclusively done for the campaign, not for his personal life, but the campaign only, because that's the standard. And he paid with campaign funds, as he would be able to do. They would be baying for his scalp right now, Sean. Campaign funds. He did everything the right way. This is not John Edwards, who had some donor dish out $1 million for him to hide his...
By the way, John Edwards was found innocent.
Found innocent and then hung, and then the Justice Department decided we're going to dismiss the case.
Yeah, I think Emmett Flood was his lawyer at the time. I know he's a colleague of yours and a friend of yours, smart lawyer like you are. Joe, thank you for being so generous with your time and updating this great audience of ours.
Absolutely, Sean. Anytime you need it.